immediately by M5, and they're like, yep, we're going to go for Eve. You know, again, whenever it's available, a very, very strong roamer, sets up a lot of opportunities, will scale throughout the game. And the crazy thing here, this is the second time we've seen M5 pick Evelynn and not care about that mid lane. He does not care what he's up against. Like, you know, we saw the Cassiopeia counter pick against Invictus, did not care, lost a kill in lane, but still scaled throughout, went like 8-3 in that game, had a phenomenal job. Diamond still trying to figure out what his champion is, but you're seeing M5 already set up for a late game scaling composition. Grabbing this Yorick here in this means they're also not burstable anymore. No matter who TPA tries to kill out, they're still going to be able to put, you know, a clone back on someone, whether they revive Alex Ish, whether they revive Genja, no matter what it is, the guy's going to come back to life and continue fighting. It's a really strong setup still here for M5.
So now, knowing with those picks, do you still think they may go with the Vayne? That would be a super late game team coming from Moscow 5 then Q, but they've, you know, last time they actually showed Zyra and then went to select Eve and took Zyra later. So they've seen they've tended to do that quite a bit on M5's side.
Actually, Vayne would make quite a bit of sense here because they're against a not hyper-aggressive lane. Whenever you're against a Kog'Maw, he's not the biggest lane bully. It's not Corki, Ezreal, or Graves.
You gotta wait so long
to jump into your face. Right, yeah, he's got to swing at auto attacks. He doesn't really spam abilities much at you. He's not a great poker. You can take some damage, but if you've got Nunu Vayne together, that late game is ludicrously good, and especially when you've got a Yorick on that team, even if Vayne does die, again, she will come back to life and continue wreaking havoc. IPL 3 was actually the tournament that was defined by Yorick Vayne. You saw teams have to ban out Yorick to deal with that kind of situation. It made it really, really awkward, and it's weird here to actually see Taric picked up with the Kog'Maw, because it's not a lane synergy you see very often. You typically see Taric as an aggressive laner, as a bullier, but they're saying, no, we're going to pair that up with Kog, and they've got a really weird mix of lane control, where Taric can stop any aggression, but at the same time, they've also still got Kog'Maw just being Kog'Maw and really kind of scaling himself throughout. So you're still seeing, you know, a lot of potential pickups here, and really no guaranteed overall strategies. The mid lane still not picked up for TPA Assassins, and still that total bottom lane and the top lane, or possibly jungle really, still not picked up for M5 BenQ.
You know, Freak, they're going to have to be really safe in this bottom lane. Unless they choose to do some type of swap, Lee Sin, or at least Diamond Prox himself, starting on that blue side, likes to start those red champions and could go for that early bottom gank. So that Taric, although isn't the best synergy, as you said, with Kog'Maw, is going to help. We see them actually going for the Vayne pickup and the Xin Zhao.
So this is M5 really playing a very similar strategy to their very first game in this tournament, where they've got that Evelynn in middle. They're not worried too much about the matchup. They've got, you know, just a hyper scaling bottom lane. Genja going with the summoner heal on Vayne to keep himself alive longer, and Xin Zhao is going to be forced to play the role of main tank. Actually, no, Xin Zhao won't play main tank. He's actually going to be in the jungle. It's Yorick up at the top lane, and Yorick should be able to farm himself up some decent durability. Xin Zhao's going to be much more of an assassin in this lineup, and it's going to be a little bit hard for him, because I don't know if Xin Zhao Evelynn can completely kill off that Kog'Maw. He's got the Shen shield still available. There's a stun and a heal from Taric. I'm actually not sure that M5 BenQ can kill off Kog'Maw. So right now, that point we talked about, adapt to the carry, I don't know if they can completely adapt to BB in this game. It's going to depend a lot on how that lane matches up. As they're seeing the rest of this champion pool come through, looks like TPA Assassins going for a Karthus pickup. So it's interesting. M5 playing a team very, very similar to what they ran Game 1 against Invictus. TPA running a team, honestly, very similar to what Counterlogic Gaming Europe just ran just a few minutes ago. Both these teams actually ridiculously good late games. You know, a mix of team fight presence in the middle. But these are awkwardly similar teams. I'm actually not sure who comes out ahead here.
Freak, I'm gonna put it out there that I feel like Moscow 5 during that mid to late game is going to have the better initiate. You're looking for Kog'Maw and Karthus to really start to tear out some damage. Alex Ish will be sure to find one of them in the beginning, and you're going to see Nunu iceballing Kog'Maw, completely shutting down his attack speed. So once those are out, the cooldowns from Bear Stance and Dazzle waiting to come back up, and Taunt, if they don't hit those perfectly, it's going to be a very tough fight, because Moscow 5, like Hotshot said, like Dan Din said, they have amazing fighting mechanics.
This is going to be really awkward as well. It's going to be very difficult. Yeah, you know, M5's fighting mechanics are amazing, because Genja's going to have really no chance of getting shut down. It'll be very difficult for him to get kicked out of this matchup. it's difficult. Neither team has amazing hard engage. There's a little bit of poke on both sides, a little bit of pressure on both sides. But this game, I feel like it's going to be the story of AD carries, of late game carries who aren't going to get caught too much and will just start eviscerating the front line. I think it's a matchup more about gold than about positioning, because there's no ideal positioning on either side.
Yeah, it's going to be that catch somebody off guard the entire time, hide in the bush, allow Nunu's ult to start something, and, you know, continue a very long and sustained fight with the Yorick ulti on Vayne. And that's going to be, you know, the #1 objective for them as they come into this matchup. TPA, as we said before, that suffocation strategy that Moscow 5 may not be able to get away from right away, but we'll be sure to see them fighting hard as they come into that mid to late game. Ladies and gentlemen, the game is underway. Your first quarterfinal match, or semifinal matchup, I should say, of the League of Legends World Championship Playoffs. Here we go.
Alrighty. We get ourselves up into this one. The blue team, once again, M5 BenQ. The red team you're seeing on your screen right here is TPA Assassins. This is going to be an incredibly epic matchup. It's a best of 3, and the winner of this match, the winner of this best of 3, moves on to the $1 million match, that grand final. We're seeing who's going to win between M5 and TPA. Later today, we see who wins between Azubu, Frost, and Counterlogic Gaming Europe. While that's a rematch, that Frost CLG match, that's a rematch of a tournament just a month ago. These are teams who have never seen each other. And once again, TPA saying they most respect M5 of any team in the world. M5 have come through as a heavy favorite here. There is a lot of questions to be answered here. The last Mandarin-speaking team left in this group. There's a Korean team left there from Asia, but we're about to be whittling down this roster very, very quickly. You're seeing TPA open up pretty defensively. You're seeing M5 as well opening pretty defensively. Neither of these teams looking for early aggression.
It looks like Alex Ich just using that invisibility to his advantage right now, just staying slightly out of range, seeing a glimpse of each of the champions on TPA's side as they are hovering that top side. Coming into this, they do have that Udyr in the jungle. I usually see an Udyr focusing blue. What do you think they could be proposing with this just top guard? Do you think they're going to be aggressive from Moscow 5, or they're going to go right around to blue?
Oh, they could jump there in at any time. This is one of the really difficult things here, is especially, I actually want to look at Shen real quick and see if Stanley has even learned Vorpal Spike, because if he has saved his point, Stanley has saved his first skill point, so they could absolutely give Lil Balls a Lizard buff and gank right away, but instead it looks like they are going to go aggressively after all and go for an invade.
Looks like they're coming around at just the right time. That blue buff spawning 5 seconds ago, they are going to push them off of this. Moscow 5 kind of conceding here. They're not putting too much pressure. Alex Ich coming around from the backside as well. The top is in. The Dazzler goes down. Too much focus. Little Ball is going to help his team now. Diamond with the flash. Alex Ich in poor positioning. And it looks like TPA Assassins, although in somewhat of not a solid position, they will be able to just walk this back and forth. They force the flash from Diamond, and that's going to be very good. You're not going to see huge aggression from him, and that'll kind of shut down his presence out of the jungle.
So this is interesting overall. Oh my gosh, Toys actually teleported into the bottom lane to deal with Genja. I have not seen this in quite some time, but they are lane swapping, and it's just like the Koreans play against Casting. They're putting a 2-on-1 in that mid lane. Any sort of melee mage to run the mid lane, especially one without great long-range tools. Like if it's Gragas in 2v1, it's not really that big of a deal, but someone like Evelynn or Kassadin is going to have a really hard time fighting that 2-on-1 there. So that might have been why Tarek got picked up, is once they realized that Blitzcrank was banned out, they said, you know what, okay, let's go for an aggressive mid lane here. You know, you can't get the same thing with Leona because Leona must jump on top of you, but with Tarek here, they can shut down Alex. They have a completely free lane for Kog'Maw, so he's going to have gold this entire matchup. This is really, really good.
You know, TPA formulated this perfectly. They went into the jungle and made sure that Moscow 5 wasn't in lane. They weren't soaking up experience. Then when they brought these lanes into sight, they did not give Moscow 5 enough time to react, so they're going to have to stick with what they have for now until they can really have to go back or are forced out of lane. So TPA with a very great strat mentally right now.
And I think they hope they actually give that Golem buff away to Toys at the beginning. They know Udyr can jungle without that kind of buff, but Toys wants that mana to survive the lane. At the same time, they're pushing up for a gank.
And this is what you get out of a squishy AP carry going down for first blood for Moscow 5.
That is the perfect play right there. That is exactly what they need to do, is they know he's got a bit of a weak matchup. They got Diamond around the jungle fast enough that he did show up for that gank. That's a really, really great play. Even got the blue steal as part of it. That's really good counter-strat orchestration here by M5 BenQ. Alex still with a bad lane, only 2 minion kills. You've got to remember that. That's a very big disadvantage. But at the same time, it's still risky for it's still difficult for both these teams this early game.
So you see Udyr coming out to middle. Looks like he could try to get some help on Little Balls.